How's it going, everybody? I'm going to start showing off these Antarctic banknotes, but it is important to know that these are fake, but they are quite beautiful. Just get a good look of them. So if you type in Bank of Antarctica online, you can find the latest versions of these. They sell the banknotes for the value, $1 and shipping, and yeah, I think they sell them up to $100. But sometimes you can get a deal of them, find them cheaper. I have seen $100 notes, $50 notes go cheaper than the value that they say, but you never know. eBay will surprise you sometimes. This one in particular is their latest version, 2015. There aren't too many security features or anything like that. There's no real watermark, it's just what you see on the other side. But they do have the clear windows, which is a new addition. Got a little star, and this one's very basic, it's just a penguin. It's polymer, but excellent quality. I mean, if I saw this for any other country, if I didn't know any better and I saw this banknote, I would think it's a real currency. I would have no idea. It's made very well. When looking and zooming in here, and you look around, don't really notice. I've already taken a peek earlier. I don't really notice any kind of micro lettering or anything like that. Nothing that seems obvious. No hidden messages. You see what you get. And even though we're pretty bright in here, I don't see any obvious infrared things going on. But this is the $1. Very pretty. And then we move on. We have a 2. This is the modern, latest version of the 2. So this one, Charles Wilkes. From my limited research, he was an American explorer, and he mapped out a good portion of the edge of Antarctica. He did a lot of other exploring in other islands, but mostly just a small chunk. And this note does look quite similar. Same exact see-through bordering here, but the illustrations really are something. Like I said, I don't see anything infrared going on. At least nothing that pops out too much. Little reflections with this at times, but. And then we have just more I'm not too familiar with this landmark, but I wouldn't say this is a national park of any sorts. You're not going to find too many people visiting. I know Antarctica does have a lot of research stations. A lot of them are international, and it is mapped out quite well. But this is the $2, which you really can't spend anywhere. You can just show off. And then we can take a look back at the older versions, 2011, and they have a few other older versions of issues. Same person, company that's making these banknotes, but this one is similar, or this one, instead of the illustration, this looks more like a real photo. And the polymer feels, they're both polymer, but it feels a little different. This one is more of a softer touch to it, where this one feels more robust. I'm probably getting better at doing it. And then we have some of these security features, which newer versions did not have. Not seeing any watermarks, and we just got more adorable little penguins here. I like how he just puts his email address at the bottom. That's adorable. This is the one. And then as we move on, it starts to get a little more historical. So if you looked at this note, you know, initially you might not know what the heck is going on here. But if you see this little piece right here, in the early 1900s, different countries were claiming different sections of Antarctica. So New Zealand, this was their claim. And so they just have an outline of their country, their little section of the Antarctic region. So in 1923, they already at that point have been to the South Pole, and they've mapped out a lot of the overall territory. And so New Zealand called it the Ross Dependency. And still same feel. This is the same version or series as this one, I believe. And so it has a lot of the similar security features. I'm not sure if this is a New Zealand president or minister of some sort. And then then we'll move on to the 5. Oh no, we have a $3 note. I do like the $3 choice here. So this is a very similar note. So this is Norway. And you can see this was their section that they claimed. And there was a few different countries that had claims. A lot of them had different sizes. I'm not sure the deep history on, what made them claim this and how they decided to do such. This one at least gives you a descriptor here. It's the King of Norway. King Haakon VII. Most likely saying that wrong, but gotta give it a shot. And I'm not sure who this is, but $3. I'm assuming this is Norwegian because it is, representing their section of it, but I'm really just making that up. I have no idea. It's just my best guess. But now, important to note, in I believe the late 50s, there was a new Antarctic treaty where they basically stopped doing the whole making a claim for a section, and internationally everybody just decided that Antarctica is going to be more of a research area, continent, and since nobody really actually lives there, it's not really inhabitable besides temporary research stations that nobody can lay serious claim, and everybody acknowledges that it's just everybody's free use for research, which a large majority of countries have signed on to. So here we have the same version. This one, it's hard to see the map as much, but this is the Britannia. So I'm assuming this is British. And this would be their claim, I believe. Now this was actually an important piece of Antarctica because if you look at the shape of it, a lot of people for a long time wanted to get to the middle, but they also needed a way to dock their boats and at least establish a base. And coming into these little ellipses right here was mostly optimal, but still very difficult, whereas coming in from the sides over here were very, very difficult. So I would say that their piece of territory here was very important for them to claim, at least initially when they were trying to discover. But this one's their 5. Now this whole series of notes I think I got for about $20, and I have a 10 and a 20. So like I said, you don't have to just try to buy them for full price. Sometimes you might get lucky and get a package deal, or wouldn't really spend top dollar on these notes if you just give it some time, unless you're a little anxious. But these ones are 2008. And then on the back we have some sort of penguin here. I'm assuming the Great Auk is this guy. But like I said, I could be lying. I only did limited research here. And then we move on. So this gentleman, I did a little research on this guy. Captain Robert Falcon Scott. He was a figure. He actually made it to the South Pole, and he was trying to be the first one. But unfortunately, when he got to the South Pole, there was a letter there waiting, basically telling him he lost. And only a few months before, there was another man who beat him to the South Pole. So on his way back, though, him and a few other gentlemen, they kept running into a bunch of blizzards and unfortunate events, and he didn't make it back. So he made it to the South Pole. He didn't make it home, though, and unfortunately he wasn't even number one. But there were a lot of other expeditions where people perished just trying to get to the South Pole. Back then everybody was exploring. And this just says Scott's Hut. So there were several times where the blizzards were really bad and they hunkered down, but at some point they ran out of supplies and everybody eventually froze and just died. But this is sort of looks like that church stained glass look. So this is there are 10. I would say the only thing that I don't typically like about these notes is these portraits. Some of them, I don't know, the way they edited them into these overall note, it doesn't look as clean as some other portraits and figures do in their other banknotes. I just don't think that this is put into this picture well. Not the framing, but just the way it's blending into the background and all that. Just kind of looks a little fuzzy-ish. And then we're off to our last one here. This is a Frank Worsley, and this man has a little map. This is Antarctica on the bottom here, and this is that area that I was telling you where it's a lot easier to land and get onto the actual mainland of Antarctica. But his journey started in December 1914. They made it all the way down here. Where their ship was stuck for a while, and eventually, after it was stuck in between a few large pieces of ice, it got crushed, so they had to abandon ship and kept making their way, and they basically made their way back here. So he, I believe, did make it. I think their ambitions were to do more exploring, but even though this is the easier part of Antarctica to get in, it was still overall much difficult. This man also was a part of the crew for Shackleton, who is another famous Antarctic explorer. So he led the ship called the Endurance. This man right here, Worsley. So, but I know they go up to 50 and 100. So we'll eventually pick those up. But like I said, I just somehow the way these faces are placed on here, they do look a little bit better in the camera, but they look a little funny when you get a closer look to them. But these are my Antarctic notes. More to come eventually. Hope everybody has a good one. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment.